Hi all and shalom. It's Brad right here from the Single Malt Whiskey Club, and this month we are going to continue on our world whiskey journey after last month's fabulous Indian whiskey, the Rampur Pedro Ximénez Sherry Cask finish. We are today going to stick with the world whiskey vibe. We're going to Israel and we are featuring the Milk&Honey Classic Single Malt Whiskey. This is a brand new whiskey from a brand new distillery from Israel, the very first single malt whiskey to come out of Israel. And we're very proud to be featuring it here for the first time in Australia at the Single Malt Whiskey Club. Built in 2012, the Milk&Honey distillery is situated in Tel Aviv, which is arguably the Middle East's most vibrant city. It's full of culture, food, wine, nightlife, that sort of thing. And Milk&Honey, in the 8 years they've been around, have definitely established themselves well and truly as part of Tel Aviv's fabric of entrepreneurs, artists and innovators. When they set up the distillery, they employed the consultation of the late Dr. Jim Swan, who was known as the Einstein of modern whiskey. And Jim Swan has consulted to a lot of startup distilleries. He consulted a few names, Cavalan from Malaysia, Penderyn from Wales, the Victoria Caledonian Distillery in Canada, as well as Clydesdale and Lindner's Abbey distilleries in Scotland. So he's definitely added his expertise to a lot of new distilleries around the world, Milk&Honey being one of them. His direct influence in this whiskey comes from the use of the STR casks, shaved, toasted, and recharred. We'll talk about that in a minute. But those casks that are attributed to Jim Swan are used in the maturation of this whiskey. The distillery itself, Milk&Honey, is a rather small, 170,000 litres per year at present. They're making new make spirit. This includes gins and as well as a few releases, limited releases from their visitors centre, available only at the distillery, of the whiskey as it's aged from new make spirit onwards. So they've done a few small in-house releases of their developing single malt whiskey, but this is their very first single malt whiskey, their first commercial whiskey, if you like. And it's absolutely fantastic. As you can imagine, an Israeli distillery, the distillery and its products are completely kosher. It's closed on the Sabbath for a start, and it's also, it produces under the direct supervision of the Tel Aviv Rabbinate. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So it's supervised by a group of rabbis to make sure that it upholds its kosher aspirations. So what is kosher spirit? Pretty simply, which is not, but put it pretty simply, kosher spirit has to be distilled from a product that's not made out of grapes. It can only be made out of cereal or sugar, and it has to be aged in casks that haven't come into contact with, say, grape-based stuff like wine or sherry and stuff, unless it's been certified as kosher by a rabbi. Once more, it's a hot climate whiskey, just like last month's Indian Rampur. So what that means basically is a greater diversity between high temperatures and low temperatures each day than they do get, say, in Scotland. And what this effectively does, the rise and fall of temperature corresponds to a rise and fall in atmospheric pressure, and that basically pumps the whiskey in and out of the cask, and it increases the speed of maturation quite substantially. You could consider it, I guess, a bit like a lung, going in and out. So much greater volume of whiskey gets exposed to the wood in a shorter time than would in a more static, heated environment. Let's have a look. Mentioned above, the late Dr. Jim Swan's influence, as well as helping set up the distillery and getting their whiskey production game on point. This whiskey is aged in bourbon and what they call STR cask. Now, an STR cask is the invention of the late Dr. Jim Swan. It stands for shaved, toasted and recharred. Now, what that essentially means is they get an existing barrel. In this case, they're red wine barrels. They then shave out the existing char, they re-toast it and re-char it to the level that they're looking for. So what you get basically is new wood in the insides of the barrel, and the influences from this new wood and the used oak create a powerful combination of fruit, oak, and spice. So that's it. I guess we've talked about it enough. Let's have a taste. So here it is, a beautiful black and gold box and label. The whiskey itself, beautiful honey colour, quite befitting the name. So there it is, that lovely sort of mid-gold colour, and the nose. Yep, straight away the oak jumps out at you, as does sort of a sweet vanilla, and then there's also a real floral sort of floral fragrance going on the top of jasmine, very jasmine-y. Bloody nice. Taste. It instantly coats the mouth. It's not oily. It's a tiny bit astringent. It's pretty dry whiskey. There's a massive burst of pepper at the start, and that sort of wafts away into vanilla, oak, more oak, and a touch of toffee. Just a touch of toffee. The finish is a medium finish. It's a little bit astringent. It's a medium length. There's a lot of pepper there. There's a spiciness, but a sort of a wave takes you out with a wave of vanilla-y sweetness. It's bloody nice. Well, that's about it for me this month. If you want to get onto some of this Milk and Honey Classic single malt, the very first single malt whiskey out of Israel, then you can do it by joining the Single Malt Whiskey Club at www.singlemalt.com.au. Until next month, I'm Brad Wright. L'chaim.